Dear colleagues, it is a great honor to share with you today a few thoughts on the role of adult learning and education, ALE, in times of rapid changes, war and conflicts. Or in other words, in our times. The background of my intervention is the experience of the two organizations I'm representing here. First of all, the European Association for the Education of Adults, EAEA, is the voice of non-formal education in Europe. We are a European NGO with 120 member organizations in 43 countries, representing more than 60 million learners Europe-wide. Our purpose is to link and represent European organizations directly involved in adult learning. Originally known as a European Bureau of Adult Education, EAEA was founded in 1953 by representatives from a number of European countries. Since 2019, I have the pleasure to serve as the president of EAEA. DVV International, secondly, is the Institute for International Cooperation of the Deutsche Volkshochschulverband, DVV, the German Adult Education Association. DVV, as our national umbrella, represents the interests of approximately 850 adult education centers, Volkshochschulen in German, the largest further education providers in Germany. As a leading professional organization in the field of adult education and development cooperation, DVV International cooperates with more than 200 civil society, government and academic partners in around 30 countries in Africa, Asia, Latin America and Europe. Our work focuses on literacy and basic education, vocational training, global and intercultural learning, environmental education and sustainable development, migration and integration, work with refugees and health education, as well as conflict prevention and civic education. It is obvious, and we can recognize this on many levels, that our world has changed. In the European Union, we witness a substantial shift of priorities. Whereas the former Commission focused on digital transformation and Green Deal, the new keywords now are resilience, preparedness and competitiveness, in a perception that Europe exists in a more and more hostile environment. Recently, the Commission started a new multi-billion initiative to rearm Europe, now called Readiness 2030, after Italy and Spain intervened against the original title Rearm Europe. On the global level as well, in security, the number and quality of natural disasters and violent conflicts rises. Democracy and freedom are under threat. Many of our global partners feel the consequences of shrinking spaces for civil society. Of course, there are some exceptions. Countries and regions on a positive development path. But all in all, the picture is bleak. I would like to focus now on the role of adult learning and education in the contexts of war and conflicts. My intervention is based on an expert paper that we in DVV International published based on our experiences. In this paper, we try to systematize the contributions of ALE and identified 4 topics. Adult learning and education supports people and societies firstly through conflict prevention, secondly through the coping with the consequences of conflicts, third through the processing of conflicts, and finally through the integration of refugees. First, tackling the causes of conflicts. ALE reinforces the ability of people to interact with one another in a non-violent manner. Adult learning and education can contribute to the initiation of dialogue between people from opposing groups, to reveal prejudice and to help them reconsider existing stereotypes. Non-violent methods of communication can not only be used to deal with conflicts, but also to prevent escalation. For instance, adult education enables people to change their perspective in order to reflect on the causes of conflicts and work towards peaceful solutions. Grassroots educational work, which focuses particularly on disadvantaged groups of the population, makes it possible to reduce existing frustrations and fears at the local level. One example from our work is the project work we did in Central Asia, where we initiated dialogue between villagers from Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan who have been involved in conflicts about water rights for many years. An investment in adult education before violent action starts is therefore a long-term investment in conflict prevention. Second, in conflict situation, support those affected. During wars and violent conflicts, many educational institutions face many and diverse challenges. Staff and teachers are often directly threatened and are not available to continue teaching. Rooms for teaching are no longer available or are unsafe. Recently, the Russian bombing of Sumy destroyed not only parts of the university, but as well the adult education center of the city, which was located there. However, in our experience, adult education structures can often adapt more flexibly than formal systems to volatile conditions, utilize niches, and quickly provide suitable programs. Especially civil society organizations develop an impressive level of commitment in this respect and are frequently able to find creative solutions. The experience of our partners from Ukraine, Palestine, or Mali shows that the need for adult education services in conflict situations is great and diverse. It starts with counseling services and socio-psychological support that helps people continue to live their everyday lives despite the traumatic experiences of death and loss. Often there is a great need for new life skills and employment securing skills and knowledge to ensure their own survival or to help them build a new outlook. In Ukraine, our partner network organizes specific training for demobilized veterans, many of them disabled. In the West Bank, community learning centers became meeting places offering a wide range of services going far beyond education only. Third, remember for the future, coming to terms with the past. Conflicts from the past continue to have an impact on the situation in many countries. An inadequate reappraisal of past conflicts often leads to new violence. There are many examples of how adult education contributes to dealing with the consequences of war and violent conflicts. On the one hand, it is about coming to terms with what has happened, a topic that adult education in Germany has addressed intensively after World War II. In the so-called re-education, directly after the war, and the grassroots movements in the 70s and 80s, reconciliation work is lengthy and often painful. But it contributes to a sustainable, lasting prospect of peace. In particular, groups that see themselves as losers of the conflicts are those most in need to work with. Adult education can, on the other hand, significantly contribute to open up new perspectives for people with disrupted educational biographies. One of the most common consequences of war and violence, especially among young people. Finally, support refugees and host communities. Wars and violent conflicts are always associated with a large number of refugees. Most of them are displaced within their own national borders, but in some cases people are forced to leave their home country. As a result, wars and violent conflicts also impact countries, regions, and societies that are not directly involved. This is as well where adult education structures provide important anchors for the reception and integration of refugees, as has been impressively demonstrated by the work of our partners, again in Ukraine, but as well in Georgia, Jordan, Tunisia, and many other countries. But also by the commitment in recent years of German Volkshochschulen to the integration of refugees in Germany. In this context, adult education forms a key component in the care and, if necessary, permanent integration of refugees. This begins with the provision of low-threshold counseling services. Often, there are also offers for the recognition of professional skills, combined with vocational and language training programs. Alongside language integration, cultural and social integration is also taken into account. Adult education programs support refugees to understand their new environment and find their way in it. But it can help as well to foster understanding for the new arrivals amongst the local population and break down barriers. All this is helpful and necessary. But I should not end without mentioning that we, as adult educators, stand as well for democracy, human rights, and justice. These values represent the heart of our identity. To defend them is our mission. We should continue with this work, or as Per Paludan Hansen, my predecessor as EAEA president from Denmark, puts it, the democratic resilience is under pressure. We need popular preparedness. It is a trademark of adult learning and education that it responds to the needs of the learners. We are indeed the most flexible and down-to-earth part of the whole education system. We should use this ability widely and wisely in the current world. Let me finish with expressing my sincere gratitude to our Slovenian friends. Be assured that we value your engagement. We are very glad to have you at our side in Europe. Thank you very much and have a nice event.